Hello and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate podcast. Jim Riley here with my partner and friend, Rod Kuntz. Morning,
Greetings,
Rod.
everybody. Good morning, Jim.
Dude, we were just talking about the weather. And I just hate everybody. That's all they talk about is the weather. But not too often that you get a storm of this magnitude or a cold front. They said the last time it's been this cold in Montana was in like 1971. And we're expecting minus 35. That's without the wind chill. I'd heard minus 50 with wind chill. What have you heard?
I heard that's coming. I was around back in 1970, so it's not my first rodeo.
Do you remember it?
Yes, I do remember a couple of cold snaps. I absolutely do. And well, there are stories in my book about some cold adventures in the minus 20s.
Yeah, sledding, hunting coyotes.
Yeah, but when it's minus 20 and you're going 50 mile an hour on a snowmobile, there's a little bit of wind chill,
Oh, yeah.
And, you keep covered up as much as you can, but, you have to stop once in a while. And anyway.
Yeah. Well, you're a stud, but it's here.
Well, weather, I'm not surprised that people talk about the weather all the time, though. We as humans are intricately connected to weather. Our businesses are affected by weather. And it was even worse back in the day when you're a farmer, you're a rancher. So weather is a big part. It's probably 90% of what you've got going on in your life. You've got to watch the weather. And I'm always fascinated by the weather. And
that's a good point.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do is dictated by the weather as it relates to taking care of the animals or just preparation of the ranch itself. Good weather, you're fixing fences and tilling land or whatever, harrowing the lots so that they can grow better pasture grass. Right now, and I just posted this on my Instagram, I ran outside to feed them this morning. It was so cold, but we're not going anywhere the next 5 days to make sure that we're taking care of our animals properly. They rely on us to take care of them we're their lifeblood. And it is our obligation and duty to take care of those animals and make sure that they are safe in this weather. And sometimes, although you can be as prepared as possible, this is all lead up to the topic of the day, by the way.
Okay.
You can be as prepared as possible, but still things can happen during the day. A heat lamp can blow out. The water could freeze over because maybe a breaker tripped because of the weather. All these things, are part of being responsible for animals. So yeah, I'm not surprised either about the weather, but I just feel like sometimes we could be a little bit more creative. I know it's a good icebreaker, right?
Well, it's something we all have in common. So that's why it's a good icebreaker. What do you talk about with strangers? What you have in common? Well, the weather is the common denominator there. So it's all good.
I want to congratulate my neighbor. Rod and I always talk before the show just to catch up because it's been a couple days. We talk on Monday nights, but we always catch up a little bit. I started to talk about my neighbor and something that he was up to. And we just got to record this. So I do want to record this because I want to congratulate my neighbor, Jason. Today is his 75th day on 75 Hard. So he completes it. And he has done such an incredible job on the program, following it to a T, as far as I know from the outside. But, when you listen to Andy Frisella talk about 75 Hard and kind of the BS factor, he'll tell you, he's like, I can always tell when somebody BS's 75 Hard because they get done and they're all smiles and, oh yeah, I that was easy and this and that. The reality is it's hard. And there's a lot of very hard days. And what I've seen through Jason is his struggles along the way. He was sick during that time. He pushed through it. He reached out to me a few times, for encouragement. He told me that even his daughter had to push him out the door one day to get his outdoor workout. And, but with that being said, and Rod, you and I talk a lot about the value of physical fitness and being mentally strong and tough on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. And that's one of the things that Jason has told me, the value that he's gotten out of it. He's an athletic guy. I mean, we can all use a little extra exercise or routine, but he said that the mental toughening of the program is really where he sees the value at, and bringing his mind back to, as he suggested, when he was a young man, 18 and 20s, and just desire and all these things. And so it's just another proof for me that the program works. And I'm thrilled for Jason in what he's learned in the program and where he will take that. I can't wait for his next chapter. He already told me, he's like, I'm going to take a couple of days off and go right back into it. And I encourage him to do whatever feels the best for him, with the habits that he's learned, his condition that he's developed from physical fitness and his mental toughness. So it'll be fun to watch his life unfold. All this to say, we already talked about the weather. 2 weeks ago, I committed to Jason on his last day, which is today, to do his outdoor workout with him. So we've both done our indoor workouts for sure, because that's, the first thing you want to tackle.
Are you going out this afternoon, Jim?
We have a 4:00 appointment to meet each other at Lone Pine Mountain. Oh. And the idea was, and granted, these plans were made a couple of weeks ago. So it's not like this morning we just like, let's go run Lone Pine because it's sub-zero, right? We made these plans. I'm meeting in there at 4:00. And the idea is that we will run to the bottom and then walk back up. It's a pretty steep hill. In decent conditions, it takes about 42 minutes to do that. So just under the 45, but with today's conditions, it'll take 45. Rod, I do want your advice, because I just texted him about an hour ago. I said, Jason, I'm not sure about this. Like, it's pretty nasty out there, So we live in kind of a wind tunnel. And what Jason said to me is like, well, there's good tree coverage. It'll protect us from the wind. So really the element that we'll be dealing with is any snow accumulation, as well as the chill factor, which we can accommodate. Now, you've been in all the above. And neither Jason nor I are ones to shy away from extreme conditions. It's kind of a badge of honor. As you know, I competed in the Spartan Ultra Race overnight in Iceland. So with your expert opinion, being a born and raised Montanan, do we meet at Lone Pine and do this or not?
I would do it. if the roads are open, If you can get to the bottom of Lone Pine, what I would do though is make sure the weird thing about being cold is you tend not to hydrate as much as you should.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've got a Camelback or, because, with this kind of temperature, you have a water bottle. If it's in the backpack, it might freeze. So,
yeah,
Camelback, just be smart and make sure you're hydrating. It's a short jaunt for you anyway. I mean, it's not like it's, going overnight or something.
Yeah.
But,
good point.
And just make sure, because with the wind out there, that wind chill, make sure I'd have a face gaiter, and I would go up with goggles.
Yep.
I wouldn't go with just like sunglasses or glacier glasses. I would wear goggles, because the wind's going to cut through unless the wind stops. But just make sure you're covered, no exposed flesh, and I would do it.
I love Montana. I love real men and real women that aren't afraid of a challenge. I knew you were going to say that. I told Jason,
no excuses.
I threw it out there to him. I said, hey, I don't want to be responsible for blue balls and frostbite. Okay, buddy. And he goes, I'm all in, man. I'm not one to shy away. So anyways, thank you for your
neighbor
advice. Now let's see how it rolls out.
It's just all being prepared. Make sure you have yourself. This is what I would do though. Here's my recommendation. Get yourself a good thermos and fill it with, I don't know, some hot cocoa, maybe a little peppermint schnapps, for when you're done, so you can reward yourself. Warm your cold hands around a cup of something that you can share together and say, we did this. Cup of coffee, adult beverage, maybe. Whatever you want to do, but a reward at the end, so that you can say, hey, it's cold and miserable right now, but when we get back to the truck, we've got this to look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm in.
There you go.
I will give everybody that listens to the show the results of this last day of 75 hard for Jason and what that looks like. So that leads me straight into our topic, and all the things that we've talked about so far have to do with this topic. And the topic is a finely tuned machine, And, the obvious is relating that to business, but I want to tell you why I came up with this topic, and it's easy to relate all these discussions to it. In the gym this morning, I usually listen to Andy Frisella's podcast, which I love, and I'm behind on him, so I'm enjoying that. One ended, and I only had about 10 minutes left. I wasn't going to start a new one, so I just put on my Sirius satellite, which is the Aussie channel. I like myself some good old-fashioned rock and roll. and a Van Halen song came on, and I only heard like the first part of it by that time. And you know what was cool? I got these great new headsets, is listening to Eddie Van Halen on the guitar and just how talented that man is. And then as the drums come in and the bass and then the singer and all those things, and it's like, man, what an incredible artist and band. And immediately I thought, what a fine-tuned machine they were. And when I start thinking about what it takes to be successful, not only in business, but in athletics, in all the things that we can do as humans. We talked about discipline on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate this week. That was our topic for Monday night. By the way, man, Rod, you have put out some great topics for discussion in the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Thank you for that. I can't wait to see what's coming.
Well, you're welcome, but it's what everyone puts around those topics that matters. It's the meat on the bones. I throw a skeleton out there, and then we have to rise to the challenge to bring it to life.
So discipline was the topic, and I'm thinking discipline plays a critical role in a finely tuned machine, because you just don't throw something together and then it's finely tuned. Like, you have to work at it. You have to put in the work every single day. Going back to Jason completing 75 hard a day, right? He put in the work for 75 days. He is now a finely tuned machine. And that's why I said I'm interested to see what he does with that machine now. Where's he going to go with this new tool that he's created? And again, that's why I related these stories back to this is, even on my property, I spent the last week knowing that the storm was coming, preparing for the storm. We have what I believe a finely tuned machine in the ranch in preparation for this storm. And hopefully we'll get to the other side of it unscathed, right? And if there is problems, we'll immediately know what it is and know how to handle it, because we're aware of all the components that make up the entirety of the machine. A little quick example of that. I walked in the garage this morning and it was colder than usual. And I said to my wife, the garage is cold. I don't hear the heater running. And she said, oh, I turned the breaker off yesterday because I had the garage open. Just click the breaker back on, right? She knew exactly what she had done and how to rectify it. It seems simple, but it's easy to use simple examples. Right. We knew exactly what needed. I went out there, turned the breaker on, heater came back on. Now the animals that live in the garage will be safe, health, and happy. And all the other things that we don't want to freeze that are in the garage will be fine, right? So the importance when you're building a business, and Rod, you please start thinking about some things foundationally that create a finely tuned machine in business. But when you're thinking about creating a business, and this is another thing that I love about the Entrepreneur Syndicate, is that we teach the soft skills. And Rod, you've become an expert in the soft skills and what's necessary to build those foundational elements, so that when you're in the fray of business and you're moving and going and you're selling and doing, and all of a sudden a problem occurs, if you've built that foundation, that finely tuned machine can adjust, or you can identify exactly what's throwing you off the rail. You can correct and continue to move forward because you've done the work. And I love thinking about it on the other side, that finely tuned machine, that music that Van Halen's putting out. Right? The customer, the forward-facing customer experience. What does that look like? And what's been done to get it there? And that's what I want to talk about, is how do we get people to get to that finely tuned machine?
Put in the work.
With the discipline.
With the discipline. There's no shortcuts, but here, a couple of things come to mind. And I'm going to throw this out there real quick. I'm really glad you brought up the music analogy, because music is awesome. And one person can be talented, but when you get multiple people, a band playing together, that's where the synergy happens. It magnifies what one person can do. You have a great band, you can make that lead singer or that lead guitar player sound even better. When you've got the right bass, when you've got the right, percussion, it amplifies and exemplifies what that fine-tuned machine does. So now I'm going to take a different direction and go to cars, because we think about tuning a car.
Of course.
So let's go to the racetrack and say, okay, we've got the fastest, best, most dialed-in car that's out there. Aerodynamically, it's perfect. Suspension, tires, we've got it all dialed in. We've got the professional driver who's done the laps. He's great. We're ready to go. And you get out there and something breaks. You hit a piece of debris on the track. This is where the pit stop, this is where the pit crew becomes more important than the talent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There are different levels of talent. And so if you're building a business, you can't just be focused on what you do really well, but you need to be building up your pit crew. What's your cashier's set of values? How is she going to handle that problem when it comes in the front door? Because she's on the front line. Before it gets to you, someone else, maybe 5 other people have had this problem, this issue stuck on their desk or in their email. And now it gets to you. You better be training your pit crew to be as good at their job as you are at yours. So I'll take it to that. Now, how do you do that? Discipline and practice. And now I'm going to tell a quick story.
Yeah,
because
let's do it.
You talked about a musician. I recently, and I talked about this last week, I think, briefly, Willie Nelson. I watched the Willie Nelson special on Netflix.
Yeah,
okay?
I just started that, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh, you're going to love it. So his guitar, and this made me feel so good. For those of you who don't know, I drive, my favorite commuter vehicle is a 94 Subaru Legacy, all-wheel drive. And this thing, it's just a monster. It's a beast. It's a bulletproof engine, and it's fun to drive. It's a little car. It's old. It's been totaled. It's been rebuilt, but it still looks good, and I have fun with it. It's a fun car. And I feel, in fact, somebody even saw me drive one day, and they told my son, they said, "That was your dad? That's what he drives?" and it's like, it's one of his cars, but yeah, it's his favorite. And I don't feel bad about it. You look at Willie Nelson, who is probably on par with, to put it in today's terms, Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
But he's, I mean, the music that this man has created and put out, the albums and what he's done is incredible. He has the same guitar that he originally had. Its name is Trigger.
Yeah.
And he's used it so much, it's got another hole in it he's wore another hole in the guitar. You know, the sound box, there are 2 sound boxes on it. And this thing looks old and beat up and nasty. And it's like, this guy could afford, a brand new Gibson, custom made whatevers. He could have a whole line of them, and he's not going to bust one of them up on a stage to make a scene, right?
Yep.
This is his friend. This is his tool. He's got memories built into that. He's got signatures, autographs all over it. And it's okay to keep the old and not be on the trends. Not go out there and do the trendy stuff and say, I've got the latest, greatest Gibson or whatever. Here we go. I had an Ibanez. I loved my Ibanez. That's what I played. And, but he's got old Trigger that looks like it's been just beat up nasty. You'd find it in a pawn shop or at a garage sale. And that's what he makes his living with. And it's his favorite. So stick with what you're good at, stick with what you know, and dive in and do the work until you wear it out or you wear your fingers off.
What's cool about that story, Rod, is it, as well as, thinking about motors and a finely tuned vehicle and racing, is that they both add value to, the business. But as you suggested, build out a team that is equally disciplined and brings their talents and foster that talent. Because what's great in both those examples is when Willie goes on tour, and one of the roadies said it, he's
right.
like, if the guitar doesn't show up, we don't have a show.
Right.
Willie will not play without that guitar, and it's like the golden egg, right? But what's amazing is somebody in that roadie crew tunes that guitar and gets it ready for Willie to play. That person has the talent to understand and has practiced and become a finely tuned machine of actually tuning the guitar,
right,
so that Willie can play. Because if you don't know, when you travel with the guitar and you put it away and pull it out, it does become untuned just slightly, but they would know the difference, right? Because your machine is finely tuned. Same thing with a race car. I've pulled into the pits, in my race car, and they're like, how's it going? I'm like, I feel like I'm down a little bit in horsepower. The RPMs aren't where they should be. And one of the mechanics go, oh, it sounds like you're missing in one of the cylinders. right? And that quick adjustment, maybe a spark plug wire came loose or something. They push it back on. All of a sudden, we're back going. Like I didn't hear it, but he did. Because of the talent that you build around you and the level of experience, and you've fostered that type of environment where everybody can be at the top of their game. Now you've become a finely tuned machine. And also, to your point, Rod, learn everything you can. Don't assume, and be a part of all those activities. Otherwise you're not going to become what you want to become.
Right. And it's one thing to go listen to a guitar solo, or a harpist or a flutist, whatever. You can go listen to that one person. But when you hear an orchestra, when you have 30, how about a 50-person orchestra, and every one of them is an expert and has a fine-tuned machine, and they all come together because they've practiced on this one thing. All of a sudden, you can take it to next level. You want to 10X it? Get yourself an orchestra. Oh, yeah. Build yourself a pit crew. Build yourself an orchestra and make some good music.
You know what's interesting about that, Rod? I'm so glad you brought that up, because I took my daughter, every month I take one of my daughters to the symphony, and they have different shows there of all different types. So I try to find something that might appeal to them. The symphony had a guest there, and it was a cover band called Jeans and Symphony. And basically what it was is a band that does cover songs from the late 60s, early 70s, like Moody Blues, Jethro Tull, Elton John, that recorded back in the day with a symphony behind the band. And so they're recreating that. So here I've got my 9-year-old daughter to go listen to a cover band with a symphony behind it playing 60s and 70s covers. You think she's going to enjoy that? I don't know. I wanted to give her an experience. We walked away from that show, both of us blown away, because of the talent, because of how that orchestra came together and played with that cover band and brought those songs to life, live in front of us. Fortunately, we had really good seats. We're front row just past orchestra section. So it was right here. That was 7 or 8 months ago. My daughter's still listening to Elton John, Moody Blues, Jethro Tull, all these bands because of her experience. And I think that the point that proves is that when you are a professional, an expert in your field, and you can convey your message through your own finely tuned machine, that you can appeal to all types of audiences, because the talent that you're putting out, the product that you're putting out, this customer service that you're giving, because you've dedicated to being at that level, you will appeal to a 9-year-old, even if you're playing 70s cover rock with a symphony. By the way, she's a Taylor Swift fan, right? So we're the furthest away from symphony and cover band, 80s, 70s. I mean, so I don't know. What do you think? I really think that there's a lot of opportunity in being the best that you can be.
I think that people admire and understand and know professionalism and beauty when they see it or hear it. That's what I think. So even if somebody isn't, if you have a retail store, and I walked into a store that my wife wanted to go to, but I'm not interested in anything there. But if I can feel that energy and I can see the customer service and the passion and enthusiasm, it's going to get me jacked up. Even if I'm not interested, I'm still going to see it and notice it. So, bloom. I hate that bloom where you're planted. No, you got to be the gardener too. You don't get to just bloom. You can't let other people water you. You've got to do it yourself. That's the 75 hard, right? You've got to be your own gardener. You got to do the pruning where it needs to be cut back. And that's the hard part. But that's what makes you professional, and that's what is going to perfect you.
Well, let's wrap with those thoughts, because I think they're good ones. Look for examples in your life, in businesses and activities, whether that's sports or music, athleticism, or just top entrepreneurs. Look for examples in your life of people that are a well-oiled machine, and try to emulate that in your own activities. You said Netflix earlier. I really enjoyed the F1 Netflix series. Rod, I'd encourage you to watch it. Was not an F1 Formula One racing fan, and I watched a couple episodes and I was hooked, and I'm super disappointed that I got through all 5 seasons. I'm hoping that they record this year. Now I'm all in on F1. And it is because the level that those teams operate, they're billion-dollar race teams from top to bottom. Nothing is overlooked. And I love that about their discipline and their well-oiled machine. So for me, I look at them and go, man, if I had a race team again, that's who I want to be. You know, I have a business. I want to be the people that I respect. So look around, find things that you respect, and then emulate them in your own business, your own life, personal and professional, and become that well-oiled machine. Rod, final thoughts?
It takes work. Don't let the work discourage you, and don't let the bad things. Don't let a blown tire discourage you, man. Put the spare on and do what you can until you can get it back to operational order.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You would think that we rehearsed these shows or that we scripted these shows, Jim. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we love what we do. We've paid a lot of dummy tax. We got a lot of years behind us, and I hope this has been of value to our listeners. And as Rod just said, you got to do the work. It's not easy, and I don't want to kid anybody. Becoming an entrepreneur, running a business is hard work. Becoming a successful entrepreneur is hard work, but the rewards are worth it. And if you need help getting there, we would love to help you through the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. We meet every week via Zoom, Monday night, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 30 minutes of lessons like this, and then another 30 plus on Q&A to help you get through the other side and become that well-oiled machine. We do this out of our passion for helping others. We've been so blessed in our lives, and this is really our opportunity to give back. And you may say, well, why can't you just call me? Well, I can't help as many people that need and have called me for help. So Rod and I created this so that we can help a lot of people on one phone call every week and then make ourselves available for added value if they need it. So check us out. If you like the show, share it, please. That's how we get the word out there. Rod, I can't wait to tell you about my hike today on next week's show. Stay warm, and man, it's always good to catch up with you and talk some business.
It always is. Text me a photo from the shop.
Oh, you got it. You got it. You got it. All right, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.